we're a remote first law firm. So we do all of our intakes by phone. We do DocuSign retainer agreements. And then when we're opening up the file, we've now developed an internal platform where the intake can be done collaboratively, meaning that it's not a paralegal sitting on the phone or me sitting on the phone getting all the information. The client can upload information collaboratively with the law firms. And then once we have things like insurance information and claim numbers or subrogation information, my business partner has built automations which will pull that information from Clio and then generate letters of rep. Anything that can be, pulled from like data that's sitting in our case management system, he's built an automation for it. So then with the click of a button, letters of rep can go out and processes, which I think used to take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours in terms of case opening, now take about 15 to 20 minutes instead.
Welcome, everyone, to the PI Playbook, a podcast where I get inside the huddle with successful personal injury attorneys and find out what's been successful with their practice and where they're going moving forward. I'm really excited about today's guest. I'm here with Elliot Singer with Conduit Law Firm. Elliot, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This should be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Elliot, give us a brief rundown kind of on your practice, where it started, and what you guys specialize in.
Thanks, Adam. So we are a law firm, plaintiff's law firm headquartered in Denver, Colorado. I'm also licensed in California, Arizona, and I have a provisional license in Kansas as well, just waiting for them to finalize my background check. We've been in business for 3.5 years, almost 4, actually. It's really wild to think about that. I started this law firm with my best friend, who is not a lawyer, from undergrad. And when we first opened, we were taking anything that came in the door. We were defending employers. We were filing employment lawsuits with the goal of always getting into more personal injury law firm. Right now, our practice is 95% personal injury. We have some employment, some civil rights, as we were talking about before the show, some 4th and 14th Amendment, like 1983 cases.
So you spent years as an assistant attorney general prosecuting cases and protecting consumers, working inside the system. When did the idea of starting Conduit Law and shifting to the plaintiff side really start to take hold for you?
That's a great question. I was with the Colorado Department of Law for a year and a half, 2 years. That was a great job, man. That was a really awesome job. I loved what I was doing. The people there were all incredibly smart, incredibly talented, and had been there. A lot of them were there for 20, 30, 40 years. But at the same time, I wasn't exactly professionally satisfied. I was doing some civil rights prosecution for the state. The majority of my cases were defending the state of Colorado in employment actions. So prison guards who thought they had been discriminated against, they were representing themselves in administrative proceedings. Or we'd have a lot of professors, research assistants, and that defense work wasn't exactly scratching my itch. So as I mentioned, my main contact, my partner here at the firm is my best friend from undergrad. And he was the one who was pushing me to start a law firm with him because he saw it as a really fun and a great business opportunity. So that conversation probably started in the fall of 2021, and we moved faster than I thought and officially opened Conduit Law in March of 2022.
So March of 22, you guys are going on your 4th year then in business. How have things been going?
Thank God, really well. First 2-3 years in business, I didn't know if we'd be open the next day. Right now, I feel a little more confident than that.
So one thing that stood out to me in my research is that you filed the first 4th and 14th Amendment familial integrity civil rights class action in Colorado history. That's a significant legal milestone. What drove that case, and how did navigating something that groundbreaking prepare you for the type of high-stakes personal injury work you do now?
It's really a wild story, in my opinion. I mentioned that when we first started doing this work, I was taking anything that walked in the door. One of these cases was an HOA election case where I had a really pissed off homeowner that was being screwed over by his HOA, and I was able to resolve that case successfully for him. And then opposing counsel referred me a case which really held us over for the rest of the year. One of her clients at the time was a sitting Aurora City Councilwoman who had had a very negative experience with CPS. Basically, someone was trying to get revenge on this councilwoman and called CPS on her and nearly had her son taken away because of a false complaint. So I had to learn 1983 civil rights law surrounding whether the state can violate someone's civil rights by investigating a case for child abuse or removing a child as a result of a false allegation of child abuse. We filed that case, and all of a sudden, it made the news, and hundreds of people started contacting us from all over the state of Colorado with similar tales. So, in the first 4 months when our practice was open, we were conducting dozens of intakes a week, and we selected the very best of those to join a class action lawsuit on behalf of people who had either had false complaints filed against them and had been investigated by CPS, or much more tragically, had their kids taken away as a result of false complaints of child abuse. So that case was litigated in the Colorado District Court of Colorado Federal Court here in Denver. It was dismissed, and to be frank with you, that wasn't totally out of what we were expecting. We knew it was a long shot for this class to be certified as a class action, but I think the impact of it was greater than it being successfully litigated on the merits, if I can say that. So that was a really interesting story. I still have two 1983 familial integrity cases pending. I was able to beat immunity on those. The issue with the class action is that I just wasn't able to overcome immunity.
Interesting. So why do you feel like the impact of that case was higher than actually successfully prosecuting the case?
You know, I'll never know. I'll never know what happened internally at these county departments of human services or even at the state level, right? They'll never come to the plaintiff's attorney who sued them and said, thanks to your lawsuit, we made a lot of changes internally. What I can tell you is that after we filed this lawsuit and we made a lot of noise, we did press conferences outside the Department of Human Services headquarters. We were all over the news. I'm not a news guy at all. I hate being on the news, but I did it because my client wanted me to. I started getting a lot less phone calls. I started getting a lot less phone calls from people who thought that they had been wronged by the system. Whether that was me or whether it was timing or whether, the news cycle just ended, I don't know. But all I can tell you is that my hope is that these counties started acting with less impunity when they were investigating claims of child abuse and removing children.
On your site, you talk about how your prosecutorial background gives you insight into how insurance companies and defense teams operate. Essentially, you know their playbook, right? So I'm curious, what's been the most effective in transitioning that insider knowledge into tangible leverage during a settlement negotiation? Are there any specific tactics or preparation steps that consistently move the needle?
I love this question. And I don't want to give away my secret sauce, but, I'm here to talk about my strategy. So I was mentored by Kurt Zahner and Mark Hardin, who were all about building exposure. You know, we were very aware of our exposure on the plaintiff side. And when you're suing someone who is essentially in control of the money, how do you get the best maximum result for your client? So the way that I was trained and the way that I was mentored is to look for ways of strategically, ethically, of course, and legally building exposure that would motivate the other side to pay. Common way of doing this is by looking for discovery discrepancies. So making sure that all documents are disclosed, not being afraid to go to hearing, file motions to compel, really litigate these issues because I have seen documents hidden before. The second I would say is if evidence has been destroyed or not properly preserved by the defendant, moving for spoliation sanctions or at least getting that in front of the judge, because that shifts a lot of the liability in terms of how the case is going to look over to the defendant. Obviously, things like if you can file claim for punitive damages here in Colorado, we call that exemplary damages. If there's any angle for that, if there's any way of building liability, personal exposure, or building damages that way, that's something that I'm always looking out for. And then again, I think strategically using experts in terms of medical experts, billing experts, causation experts, and getting the most qualified, the preeminent experts on your case. And by the way, sometimes I want an expert who tell me my case sucks. Right. So I don't want an expert always being my yes man or yes woman. But if I can get a preeminent expert from like University of Colorado orthopedic surgeon supporting my case, I think that's a way of building exposure. So yeah, that's the way I was trained. That's what seems to work. We always use it judiciously and ethically, but that's my playbook.
Nice. So Conduit Law emphasizes a focused, limited caseload, direct attorney access rather than a high volume staff model. That's a clear positioning choice in a market where firms like Frank Azar or Bacchus and Schnacker dominate on advertising spend. How are you thinking about client acquisition and scaling while maintaining that boutique attorney led model? What types of clients or cases are you specifically honing in on?
I mean, marketing and case acquisition is something that we talk about every single day, right? Because I think a lot of lawyers don't realize that a law firm is a business as well. It's something you don't learn in law school as well, as I'm sure you know. So we're constantly evaluating marketing channels. Right now, we're doing 95% paid marketing. We're really hoping to get into more organic marketing, whether it's, social media or Google searches, SEO in 2026. But candidly, right now we're doing solely paid marketing and we're paying for leads or case acquisition. We've tried some retainer signing services. They haven't really panned out for us. So we're not going with those. So yeah, just paid marketing for leads.
You've crossed the $50 million mark in recoveries. When you look at the cases that hit the higher end of that spectrum, the ones that really move into six and seven figures, what patterns emerge? Is it preparation, willingness to actually go to trial, medical documentation quality, or something else that separates a $50,000 settlement to a $500,000 one?
Sometimes the stars have aligned, I guess, where there's obvious liability and very serious injuries or even a death, and a commercial insurance policy. Sometimes you get these cases across your desk. They're tragic. They're really sad. But from a legal perspective, there's clear liability, serious damages, and ample insurance. Those haven't been our biggest cases. The biggest cases for us are the ones where we've had to bitterly litigate them for 3.5 years, disputed liability. Obviously, you have big insurance there if you're going to get a recovery like that, but disputed liability, serious damages, and a willingness to not give up. I just took a case twice, up and down, up and down to the Colorado Court of Appeals, and just had to stick it out for 3.5 years, until we showed him, I guess, that we meant business. You talked about trial. I've gone to trial about once a year in my career. I will go to trial. I like trial, but trial is also a ton of work. So I do have that trial record and trial winning experience. At the same time, I do try and avoid trial.
And a lot of that's got to be client motivated as well, right? A lot of clients don't really have the appetite to sit and wait for the recovery for a lengthy trial process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. And then you tell them about the potential for cost judgment. And a lot of people really freak out when they're told that they could potentially be liable for the other person's costs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're licensed in Colorado, California, Arizona, and Kansas. What is the strategic thinking behind the multi-state licensing? Is that driven by kind of the case or client need, or is that a direct decision made by you guys?
kind of take it on a case by case basis. My business partner, who I was telling you about earlier, he this was a remote law firm, 100% remote law firm. I work in an office, but my staff is all over the country. So he's in California. That's why I decided to get licensed in California. Kansas was kind of because it's next door to Colorado. I could be there easily if I needed to be in court in Kansas. And also the laws are somewhat favorable to plaintiffs in Kansas. And we saw an opportunity because there are not a lot of attorneys in outside of Kansas City, to be honest. Arizona's different. I think we discussed this earlier, Adam, but Arizona is one of those states where non-attorneys can own law firms. These pilot projects coming up across the country. I think Utah, Arizona, and DC. Like I told you earlier, my business partner is not an attorney, but I really wanted for him to be an owner of a law firm. So Arizona, again, not too far from Colorado. We went through that process of not only me becoming licensed there, but also becoming they call it an ABS, alternative business structure. That was really long. It took about 2 years. We had to go to the Arizona Supreme Court and be grilled by a committee down there. And it was really fun. And now he's the co-owner of a law firm in Arizona as well.
Was it actually fun, or were you saying that tongue in cheek, getting grilled by the Arizona Supreme Court?
It was like a moment of truth for me in a way, because it was not a rubber stamp at all. There was a committee of 10 people, including sitting judges, grilling us about why were we coming to not California, Arizona? What were we doing here? What were we going to bring to the state and to the people of Arizona? And to be asked those questions and to be able to look people in the eye and explain why we were doing what we were doing. What was
Interesting. Maybe crystallize some purpose for you a bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Uh, so Arizona and California, I know Kansas and Colorado are UBE states, but did you actually have to take the bar exam in California and Arizona?
California, I had to fly out, and as a licensed attorney, I think for more than 5 years, I didn't have to do the MBE, but I had to do the 1-day attorney's examination. So that was the all essay. I think it was like 6 essays. Flew out, went to a huge conference center in Silicon Valley somewhere, and yeah, did have to take the test out there. Arizona, no. Arizona's also UBE state.
The firm is called Conduit Law. There's intention in that. You've built a team of 5 paralegals, the firm manager, and you, who you've known since Cornell. How do you think about the operational structure and the role each person plays in maintaining that boutique feel while still handling complex cases at scale?
Man, I love that question because it's something that I think we've nailed at Conduit Law, if I can say that. So I came in with, well, I guess only 8 years at the time. Now I have 12, but 8 years of legal experience. So I do obviously all the legal advice and all the legal strategy. So that's what I bring to the table. I think what we unintentionally nailed is that my business partner is the one who came in with all the marketing, all the sales, all the biz ops experience. So he knew sales back and forth. He can do intake. He can sign clients, and he has also grown to understand how a personal injury case works from front to back. So he's built all these automations that make scaling really easy from intake all the way through litigation. And then kind of just by chance or by luck, we hired amazing paralegals, absolutely amazing paralegals who came in with like 8 to 10 years of experience each. So absolute pros who also know personal injury front and back and can handle things and take a lot of issues off my desk so that I can focus on what I do best, which is legal strategy and providing legal advice. So the balance between business ops and marketing with my business partner, me doing legal strategy, and then absolute pro paralegals is what works for us.
Very good. You mentioned some kind of intake automations. What, if I might ask, what are you guys doing as far as automations on the intake process?
So When I was at my prior law firm, I had to, not had to, the way we did it there was the attorney handled every intake in person, which would take about 45 minutes to an hour. That builds a lot of credibility and a sense of trust between the client and the attorney. So I definitely understand why they did it. Here, we're a remote first law firm. So we do all of our intakes by phone. We do DocuSign retainer agreements. And then when we're opening up the file, we've now developed an internal platform where the intake can be done collaboratively, meaning that it's not a paralegal sitting on the phone or me sitting on the phone getting all the information. The client can upload information collaboratively with the law firm. So that takes a lot off the law firm's plate. And then once we have things like insurance information and claim numbers or subrogation information, my business partner has built automations which will pull that information from Clio and then generate letters of rep. So BI letters of rep, U letter of rep, health insurance letter of rep, disclosure of insurance policy letters of rep, anything that can be, pulled from like data that's sitting in our case management system. He's built an automation for it. So then with the click of a button, letters of rep can go out and processes, which I think used to take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours in terms of case opening, now take about 15 to 20 minutes instead.
So thinking kind of short to midterm, what types of signals or metrics are you guys really honed in on to drive clarity for the kind of the future of the firm? Are you focused on case mix, geographic expansion, team additions, tech improvements, or something entirely different? What does momentum look like for Conduit Law over the next year or two?
But really, that's another awesome question. We just had our team meeting here. So I told you everyone is working across the country, flew everyone in, had an in-person meeting here in Denver all day. So we talked about our core values. I would like to see those cemented over the next year. We talked about our financial goals. We're trying to hit, we have a baseline goal and a stretch goal. We were fortunately able to hit that in 2025. Those are going up in 2026. So obviously, money in the door, bottom line is always really important. I don't think we're trying to add headcount this year, although it's something we're always thinking about it. Basically, we're trying to acquire more cases and run them more efficiently without adding headcount. I mean, we're trying to grow big time right now. We're trying to grow about 50% year over year and make it a law firm where so much is automated that we don't have to add headcount and we can pay everyone more, including our paralegals.
Yeah, that's a big goal for a 50% increase without adding additional headcount. So I assume you've got some pretty robust strategies in place to achieve those goals and make them attainable.
Yeah. So we're trying to get we have wonderful paid marketing channels. We're trying not to only rely on that. So it's scary, going into Google SEO or even social media, but that's how we think we can get there.
Are there any other sort of drastic case client success stories that you'd like to share with us today?
My biggest wins can come out of the blue sometimes. Sometimes I'll help a friend in an employment case and beat a big corporation. That feels amazing. Sometimes I'll take a pro bono case and get a win there. It's all about a successful resolution and it's all about winning. So whether it's a pro bono case that I was able to get the client $8,000 for, feels amazing. If I'm able to get a $1 million policy limit settlement and put life-changing money into my client's hands, that also feels amazing. And I love doing it as a team. One of the things I try to emphasize here is that everyone at least touches each case. Everyone's involved here. Everyone knows what's going on with every single case. So to me, any single win that I can get that we accomplish as a team is a huge success.
Sure. So that's an interesting approach. You said kind of all hands on deck and everybody's touching each case. Do you find that that creates any sort of confusion for a client because they don't know who their designated case manager or paralegal is? Or how do you navigate that?
That was one of the things I was afraid of because at my prior law firm, as you mentioned, there was a case manager or paralegal that would handle That would be working on the case from start to finish. We do go on more of the departmental slash team approach here. Yes, occasionally people will get confused. You know, who are you? I thought I was working with this person. Are you my lawyer? Are you not my lawyer? Are you my paralegal? No, I'm not even a paralegal. I'm a business manager. But 99% of people, if you pick up the phone and say, "Hi, I'm blank from Conduit Law," they're just glad to hear from someone from their law firm.
Interesting. Elliot, this has been really very valuable for us. I appreciate your openness and willingness to kind of share some of your secrets and tactics. Where can people find out more about you and your law firm?
Our website is www.conduit.law. You can reach out to me directly, Elliot, Elliot, at conduit.law. We don't really have a social presence yet, but working on it. And, our phone number is 720-432-7032. You can call, text, email, whatever works best.
Very good. Thanks for joining us on the PI Playbook today, Elliot.
Thank you so much for having me.